Sure.
Hello and welcome to Rev Sports. India has played 4 matches in the T20 World Cup so far. And in 3 of them, Abhishek Sharma appeared. One of them he had to miss out due to an illness. But in the three that he did play 3 ducks consecutively. Is this a sign of concern? Is this a sign of loss of form? But as someone who has been watching Abhishek Sharma throughout all the practice sessions that have happened in the World Cup, I can say that he looks as good as he did a month ago. But at the same time, does in Team India need him to come good? And if he doesn't, does that mean a possible replacement going forward against stronger teams? Joining me for the show is Ashok Nambudiri. Ashok, I'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. Yesterday, we spoke about what possibly could be causing this slump. It could be rhythm problems, the fact that he hasn't gotten his rhythm right in the World Cup. It could be a mental block. But at the same time, when you think from a management perspective, do you think this is a huge concern for India, especially now coming up against a team like South Africa?
Right up front off the bat, Gargi, I'd like to say it's not a problem. He is the world's number one T20 batter. Yes, there is a bit of concern, but I think all batsmen go through this, and it's about working it out, frankly. And I think he's more than capable of working it out. There are two aspects to it. I think one is the mental aspect, which I think we've been speaking about for some time. And I went back and looked at the ICC podcast where former England captain Nasser Hussain is talking about it. And, he's given some tips. There's also a school of thought which says that it is up to Gautam Gambhir now to come in and, sit with him and reassure him. In fact, what Nasser, in fact, says is that he should just lock himself up and watch some of his best knocks for a couple of days, and that should be good enough for him to come back. See, in these situations, it's about having the confidence that you're really good, and it's a matter of time before you're able to kind of exploit the conditions and get to those big knocks that he's famous for. Uh, it's important not to go into a shell and kind of change your approach. The fearlessness that we have talked about, the aggression that we've talked about. You can't change the fundamental nature of the batsman. What you need to do is to try and understand that what's going wrong, and we will come to the technical aspect in a minute. But I think that's the critical part of it. I think it's really about going back to the drawing board, believing in yourself, and working out what needs to be done.
You're right. But Ashok, I know we are all speaking about it in a very rosy manner. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to convince ourselves that nothing is wrong. And I'm sure that there's nothing wrong. Again, like I said, I've watched Abhishek Sharma in all of the practice sessions. And every time he steps out in the nest, the ball is going out in the stands. But at the same time, the fact that he's not getting any runs, which is also sort of pushing, like you said, pushing the middle order, the middle batting positions into a shell. Look at the way that Surya Kumar Yadav has to come out and recalibrate. Because that defeats the purpose of having a Surya Kumar Yadav in the team, right? He's your X factor. He's your Mr. 360 degrees. He's supposed to go out there and play these audacious shots and get India the aggression that they need. But at the same time, because Abhishek Sharma and Ishan Kishan is out there doing the job alone, Tilak Verma too has to slow things down to make sure that, nothing is going wrong, that there's stability in the lineup. But do you think another failure could very well mean a replacement at the top?
No, I think it's too premature to talk about replacement. Look, I think this is also happening because, and I looked at the numbers, if you look at his records in 2025, I think he scored more than 1,200 runs, not a single duck through the whole calendar year, and over 86s that he hit, right? And then you go into 2026 and you've got basically 5 ducks in 8 innings. Obviously, people are going to talk about it. People are going to raise these questions. But I think, what I did, Gargi, was yesterday I was just going through some videos and I looked at some of the 2024 videos where he's playing for Sunrisers Hyderabad. And I saw one particular match against Delhi Capitals. And, there seems to be a bit of a pattern here, which is basically that it's clearly the off spinner coming on, and cramping him up for space. If you saw that last match where Aryan Dutt basically knocks off the leg stump, They're really cramping him up for space, and his across movement in terms of the bat coming down, that's not working. And then they have placed a fielder at the mid on or the short mid on. There is a pattern to this. Obviously the teams have done their homework, they have done their planning, and they're cramping him up for room. So long as he's conscious about it, so long as he's aware about what is happening, it's really about working it out. Now, if that's the pattern, and really we're talking about 2 innings to say it's a pattern, so not enough sample data if you ask me. But if you say that this is a pattern, then there are 2 or 3 ways to go about it. One is that you kind of take a single and rotate the strike and come back, and depending on the length of the ball, you can do that. The other is to say that you will play in and be conscious of the fact that the moment, a Salman Agha comes into bowl, an Aryan Dutt comes into bowl, you might well find Aiden Makram coming into bowl. You need to be aware that this is a pattern. So long as you're conscious of it, it's actually 50% of the job done.
Ashok, I like that you brought up that point about the opposition setting Abhishek Sharma up, because look at the way that the USA management has spoken about it. Mike Hassan came out and said that we had been preparing to get Abhishek Sharma out for 3 days. Whether or not they forgot about the rest of the batters is something that can be debated. But at the same time, it is something interesting. And I have a problem here, Ashok. I have a problem with the management because they are not getting into details at all. They're not telling us the insights. They're not giving us the insights when we ask them these very, very important questions in the press conference. That day, Sitanshu Kota came out and there was a very good question by one of the journalists. And he asked that when, a young player playing his first World Cup is being constantly talked about by all the oppositions. He's being set up. He's been getting out. He's got 3 ducks now. What is the management telling him? What are the plans or technicalities that you guys are working on when it comes to Abhishek Sharma? Now, there is no harm in answering this question honestly and giving a little bit of insight, because it's all in hindsight, right? It's already happened. So you can speak about those things. I understand not telling us what's going to happen next, what are they working on, but they could give us a little bit of insight. But Sitanshu Kotak just, brushed that question aside and said that if the others are talking about Abhishek Sharma, that's great. That's not the answer we're looking for. We want to know what the process is like in the management at the moment. But we all know that this is, while they take accountability, they don't let you in. They don't, answer these questions how you would like them to. But at the same time, when it comes to Abhishek Sharma, I do think it's a rhythm problem. I don't see any issues with his technicality. I don't see, when I look at his bat swing, it's just as good. When I look at his shot selection, it is just as good in the nets. The way that he's cleanly hitting the ball, that's also very, very good. But why he's not able to get those runs is, I think, a rhythm problem and a mental block problem. But whether or not Ashok, I actually do think that if 1 or 2 failures happen, I think he will be replaced. I have a feeling, or maybe I don't know. Maybe a Tilak Verma could also possibly be replaced. What are your thoughts about that?
A lot of questions there, Gargi. But look, first of all, the first point in terms of talking about some of these issues, I completely agree. I think post facto, at least, there is no harm in talking about it, so long as, one, you're not revealing your strategy going forward, and two, you're not giving away, your game plan which oppositions can leverage, right? So I think it's important to dissect it a little bit and talk about it. I think whether if it's mental, if it's technical, I don't see a harm in kind of saying this is the issue that we have identified and this is what we are working on. But what is more dangerous is that if you kind of press the button and say, okay, it's time to replace, I think that is a strict no-no. I hope that is not the way it transpires. And I'm hopeful that it won't. But I think I agree with you that you need to kind of talk about it, at least post facto. And look, in today's day and age, I think the data points, the visuals, all this is out there and people are talking about it already. So what are you really holding back, right? I mean, if you just have to quickly scan through the videos on YouTube and you can see the amount of analysis that is out there. So providing a little bit of an insight actually perhaps reduces the tension, if you ask me. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's really about one innings, Gargi. In the Asia Cup, I remember having talked about the fact that a 30-35 runs from him in double quick time is good enough to get the India innings going. And we're not talking about a 50, we're not talking about a 100. That's the way he plays. Suddenly he's got into big knocks, and now our expectations have gone up. And therefore, perhaps just one knock, I think, will turn it around, and too early to talk about replacing him. I think he is the world's number one T20 batter. He brings a certain quality which I don't think any team across the world has today in their artillery, and therefore that would be a really foolish move. In terms of the stabilization, the Tilak Varma factor that you spoke about, there is one aspect which is that we've got three left-handers in the top order, and is that a concern? Is that something that opposition teams have picked up? They are employing the off spinner. Clearly Salman Agha's bait in that first over was clearly a well thought out idea. Aryan Dutt was a well thought out idea. They had prepared for it. So one thought could be that instead of removing them, replacing them, as you are saying, which are two drastic moves at this stage, especially of the tournament, is that you could get Surya Kumar Yadav to come in at number 3 and move Tilak Varma to number 4. So you've got a left hand, right hand combination. I think that might be a more intelligent move.
Completely agree there. And that's a interesting perspective, because if you really think about it, if Abhishek Sharma is not able to get you those starts that you desperately need from him, then the next best thing is putting Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar Yadav out there at the same time, and having Surya Kumar Yadav go gung ho, because you've got a Tilak Varma that's coming next. You've got a Hardik Pandya that will come next, and they can sort of later stabilize the innings once Tilak Varma comes. Then the other batters can bat around him. Again, the point here is you have batting till number 8, so you have nothing to worry about. You don't need two anchors in the middle. I understand the point of these being tricky surfaces, but they're not as bad that you need two anchors when you're the top team in the tournament. And one of your major selling points of this batting lineup is that you are that aggressive. But we haven't seen that happen at all. And the other fact is, Ashok, this is the question I want to ask you. Indian batting lineup has not fired as a unit even once. Just that Pakistan game. But we will not count that because that was a completely different surface. That was a different city. Premadasa, we all know how tricky that wicket was. That was the only place where the batting lineup kind of performed as a unit. But apart from that, at home against comparatively weaker teams, the USA, and Netherlands, and Namibia, you haven't seen the batting lineup fire as a unit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, on the show yesterday, I think Rohit actually talked about this fact, saying that it doesn't seem like the team is kind of at peak. But even that's not the real point. The real point is that is the batting looking good, coming into the tournament, especially in the bilateral series. We have put in a certain momentum into the batting. Is that somewhere not happening? And is that an area of concern? I would say it is an area of concern because, look, as the tournament progresses, teams will catch up with your strategy, with your tactics, and therefore you need to be outgunning them. Batting deep is what has really saved us. Batting up to number 8 has what has saved us and ensured that we don't collapse into a 125, 130 kind of a score, which would have been very, very disastrous. And that's the reason why we managed to pull it off. But is that good enough as you go into the business end of the tournament? Perhaps not. Is it good enough when you play South Africa? Perhaps not. And therefore, I think it does merit a lot of hard thinking. I don't think chopping and changing is the answer. There could be tweaks in terms of the batting order, like you said. It's well worth the bait, if you ask me. I think it'll require a lot of hard thinking. But, getting in a Washington Sundar, getting in a Sanju Samson, those are not the solutions I would recommend. I think there is a little bit of an experimentation that you can do with the lineup in the top order. Well worth the experiment.
Definitely. So last 5 minutes on the show, let's take a look at some of the comments here. Okay, we've got a super chat. Jasleen is saying, why can't he play out 2 or 3 overs? I think that somewhat defeats the purpose of having an Abhishek Sharma in the team, because Ishan Kishan is playing the same brand of cricket and he is able to play out 2 to 3 overs. Your thoughts, Ashok?
Look, he's built a brand Abhishek Sharma, right? And a brand philosophy is has to be consistent. You cannot deviate from your brand. And is that a trap? Is the question that I'd asked on the show yesterday. It's a question I'm still asking, which is that if he starts playing a single, if he rotates the strike, if he goes a bit slow and takes 3 overs, that's not Abhishek Sharma, right? And there is going to be a disconnect. There's going to be a dissonance. Uh, and perhaps that's playing on his mind. If you ask me, that might be part of the mental issue that we're talking about, and therefore important to get out of that. We are not talking about taking 2 or 3 overs. We're talking about taking a single run, getting in some time there, and ensuring that you are able to kind of understand what's going on and believing in yourself. When Surya Kumar Yadav was out of form coming into the T20 World Cup, this is exactly what we said. Take your time, and look how he's done it. I mean, today he's breathing confidence, right? So every you have basically different courses to take, but I think it's well worth doing that, if you ask me. And I don't think for in his case you need to look at 3-4 overs.
Absolutely. There are a couple more questions here that I want to take. Where did they go? 1 second. Anirban Banerjee is saying the question isn't about an anchor in the batting lineup. Simple fact is that by and large, we have extremely poor players of spin in every format. When have we seen anchor on placid surface? Anirban, you have a point here, because, and I have said this multiple times, that when it comes to the Indian batting lineup, you don't have the kind of players that are extremely skilled with sweeps and reverse sweeps and stepping out of the crease and hitting the ball, hitting a long shot against spinners. Those 3 shots are very, very important to tackle spin, and Indian batters simply don't have that in their armory at the moment. You don't have incredible players of spin. Tilak Verma somewhat is good. He can come out there, anchor the innings, he can stabilize it against spin. But apart from that, you don't have, you see teams like Australia, you see teams like South Africa. You don't have to go back too far into history. Just look at when South Africa came to India for that Test series, and look at the way that they tackled spin in Kolkata as well. We all were talking about how difficult that Eden Gardens wicket was, but at the same time, they were able to tackle it, weren't they? That's because they had sweeps in their armory. Indian batters just do not attempt as many sweeps successfully as the other teams do. Ashok, your thoughts?
I agree completely. I think it's not that they are really world class spinners. We are making them far bigger than what they really are, and we've seen this in the bilateral series before this. You are absolutely right, Gargi. And I think it's an area of concern. I don't think we can fix that in the tournament right now, but it's something to think about and figure out what needs to be done. I would only say one thing in defense, though, which is that India's batting template, and which Gargi, you and I have debated a lot. I think that's a template that we have said going into the tournament. It works, and therefore have confidence, have trust in that process, and go back to it is what I would say.
The other thing is, Ashok, this goes right down to domestic cricket. Because of the kind of pitches that are prepared in Ranji Trophy, because of the kind of pitches that are prepared in VHT and SMAT, you see those wickets assisting batters a lot, and that's the reason why you're not seeing quality players against spin getting manufactured in domestic cricket from that circuit. That is one of the biggest problems. You see, the biggest example is also Anshul Kamboj, that Lali wicket where he performed really, really well, and then he was brought into the England squad. Look at the kind of difference that you had when you saw that when he actually bowled on a difficult pitch. There was no sharpness to his bowling at all. So it all goes down to the domestic circuit. Once you start preparing pitches that are going to give batters a hard time, that's when you're going to see quality players against spin being manufactured. But one last question, and then we can call it, we can close the show. Why isn't this moving at all? One second. Where's the comment section? Prakash, can you remove this comment, please? Thanks. What a bad sporting destination is saying, what a bad luck we got. Never both openers go well earlier. Abhishek was doing well, Sanju didn't. Now Ishan is doing well, Abhishek isn't. Hope from now on both goes well. Ashok, it's just the nature of T20 cricket, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fickle format. But look, I mean, my counter to this question would be, what if both of them are not doing well? I mean, it's good that Ishan is doing well, right? I mean, see, that's the whole point, which is that you've basically got options, you've got the versatility built in, and you've got batting depth up to number 8. Come on, in a 20 over match or 20 over innings, 120 balls, what happens is that the value of a wicket, in mathematical terms, decreases as the innings goes by, and therefore it's important to maximize each wicket. I really think that that is what we had planned for. I think that's not the issue. The issue is that we had predicated that going into the tournament, there was a certain template that we had set, saying that we will maximize the power play. If you remember, Gargi, we talked about 65 to 70 runs in the power play was the par for the course as far as India is concerned. The moment it drops to 45, 50, we raise a red flag. And then if you lose, let's say, a couple of wickets in the initial power play, then that's the other concern. And in this particular case, and in this show that we're debating, Abhishek Sharma, I think there was a lot of expectation on him, and I think that's the other concern that's there. We all know that if Abhishek Sharma comes good and scores that 35, 40 runs, we know what India is capable of. And I think it's an issue of really what the expectation is on the upper side and not getting to that, not really the downside.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. We have one more super chat here. Me trying to say rotate the strike, give to Ishan. Let him calm his nerves, because without confidence, brands also fail. Give him assurance is important. Okay, so he's referring to his earlier comment where he said, why can't Abhishek play out a couple of overs? Yeah, we misinterpreting that. So this is what you're saying. You're saying is that Ishan Kishan should start off. Abhishek should be at the non-strikers end. Why not? That's definitely something that can be tried. Maybe it's a nerve issue. Maybe it's the fact that he needs, before he goes out there and actually hits a shot, he needs to calm down a little bit, especially after 3 failures in the World Cup. Maybe that's what he needs. But today at 5 p.m., 5:45 p.m., there will be a press conference. Let's see who comes out there and how they answer the questions. From 6 to 9, India is practicing once again. We'll be there on ground to give you all the updates. But India takes on South Africa next. Not an easy team at all. This is going to be a challenge for Team India. But whether or not Abhishek Sharma will come good against a quality attack is something we will have to wait and watch. Thank you so much, Ashok, for joining. And to everyone who's watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.